Hello. In the previous video lesson, we found that exporting firms tend to be relatively large and that also surprisingly small percentage of firms have export activities. So in this video lesson, then we take into account trade costs and try to understand why this kind of empirical facts come about. So let's consider this figure taken from the Krugman et al. Textbook, which describes the link between export decisions and trade costs. And let's start from the left part of the figure, panel A, which describes the domestic or home market. And in these figures, the horizontal axis indicates the quantity of the goods supplied and sold, and the vertical axis is the monetary axis with the cost and the price. We have the blue-colored downward sloping curve that describes the consumer demand for the good, and then we have two horizontal lines describing marginal costs of two companies. So we have company one and company two, and company one has a lower marginal cost, and this marginal cost is constant irrespective of the quantity supplied in this example. Remember that in the case of the external economies of scale, for example, this marginal cost could be decreasing as the quantity increase, but in this case we don't have any external or internal economies of scale or diseconomies. So we have just a constant marginal cost, just for sake of illustration. So we have two companies. One has a lower marginal cost, and if you remember from the introductory economics text, that in the competitive markets, then firm sets the price equal to the marginal cost. So let's abstract for a moment for this kind of pricing decision. We come back to that shortly. But anyway, then at least in principle the company can set the price at the level of the marginal cost, and then this second firm, number two, has a higher marginal cost, so it cannot produce. So definitely, then the first firm will have a larger market share in the domestic market. So then let's move to the right panel B in this figure, and then in the right panel B is describing the export market or the foreign market. So suppose that then these two domestic firms, one and two, then are considering to export to this foreign market. But then we need to take into account that for the exports, then there are some trade costs, which are indicated by lowercase t here. And suppose that the trade costs are also constant per unit of export. So then in this case, this diagram illustrates that only this company number one with the lower marginal cost can export still after including the trade cost. So due to the trade cost, then the marginal cost at the export market is then the C1 plus T. So anyway, this firm number one will find it profitable to engage in export activities. However, the main point of this figure is that, okay, for the company number two, which has the higher marginal cost in the domestic market, when we add the export cost, then this marginal cost C2 plus trade cost T, so then this supply curve in the export market is already at such a high level that it is prohibitively expensive for the second company to export. So therefore, for profit maximizing firm number two, then exports will be zero. So because it cannot really cover both its marginal costs and the trade costs. So this diagram then suggests that then only firm number one is engaged in export activity. So in general, what do we mean by the trade cost? So this includes all different types of costs incurred in getting a good to a final user, other than this marginal cost of producing the good itself. So obviously there's transportation costs, and these include both the freight, but also there's time cost, because it takes time when this good has been produced until this final consumer makes the payment for that, and payment is received. So there is some inventory involved during this kind of transportation. Then there may be some policy barriers. This includes, of course, tariffs, but then there can be also other non-tariff barriers. And then finally, there's of course all sorts of information costs. So it's costly to for example, to advertise or find this kind of consumers in the export market. So then we already this previous diagram indicated that, of course, the trade costs reduce the profitability of all exporting firms. And this reduction in profitability could make this exporting prohibitively expensive and therefore completely unprofitable. But also for those firms that do decide to export, then they also reduce the export sales. And this illustrates that typically why also these exporting firms tend to be bigger, because then if we have some economies of scale, then they may be able to recover this kind of higher or by economies of scale you can then lower the production cost when you have a larger output, and you can export a part of that output. And that also then relates to the productivity, so that the more productive firms tend to export, because more productive firms have the lower marginal cost. So these kind of observations support the typical empirical patterns why we observe this kind of also in the data. So finally, I didn't go to the pricing decision in the previous slide. So I because it depends also on the competition that at least potentially, if the marginal cost equals the demand, so it's possible to export. But how would then the exporting firm set the prices for the goods? So I here on this slide I took a small paragraph from Krugman et al. Textbook, which discusses this kind of price markups, how the profit maximizing firm would choose to price these products. And interestingly, if we now consider this firm that is does find it profitable to engage in exporting, then it can be the case that actually the firm will set a lower price for this export market than it sets for the domestic market, because then it can in the export market, of course, it has to compete with the local firms who do not have these kind of transport or trade costs. So competition in the export market can imply that the exporting firm can charge a lower price margin. So it needs to set a lower price to be able to compete. Whereas in the domestic market, suppose that we have such kind of intra-industry trade that is in the domestic market, the firm also needs to compete with the other foreign firms. And in the domestic market, of course, then this home firm has the advantage that it doesn't have this trade costs, unlike the foreign companies. So then in the home market, it can set somewhat higher price in the domestic market than it charged for the foreign consumers in the export market. And this kind of pricing may be called dumping. So then of course this kind of dumping very cheaply can be also have some kind of legal issues in the foreign market especially, but it can be also rational from the firm's perspective to set a lower price in the export market than it charges at the domestic market. So in the next video lesson, then I will talk about the multinational corporations. See you then.